Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 77. I'm Jill. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are the co-hosts of this podcast and of the Becoming Ellie community.
We created a community for women over 50 who want to stay healthy and be fit. It helps a lot to have others who are working towards similar goals.
We named our community Becoming Ellie because Jill and I are still becoming fit and strong. You may wonder, who is Ellie? As the legend goes, Ellie is the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match.
Yep, you can find out more about us at the Becoming Ellie website. That's becomingellie.com, and Ellie is E-L-L-I.
While you're there, be sure to sign up for our emails so that you always know what's happening with the podcast and our community.
Our guest today is someone we met through the Becoming Ellie community, so it's an extra pleasure to get to talk with her.
It's always good to get to talk to one of our members in a bit more detail. I feel like we get to know a little bit more about them.
Yeah, we sure do. Sue gives us lots of insight about how she works to be fit and strong. Let's go to the podcast.
Our guest today, Sue Loncaric, is the Australian over 50 lifestyle blogger, certified health and life coach for women, and the founder of Women Living Well After 50. She is a qualified group fitness instructor and takes classes for over 50 women in the Strong Healthy Women virtual studio. Sue is passionate about living a full and active life in midlife and beyond. Her mission is to encourage and inspire women over 50 to live a fit, fabulous, healthier, and happier lifestyle by guiding them to realize their full potential.
In 2020, Sue fulfilled a dream of starting the Conversations with Women Living Well After 50 podcast, interviewing and sharing stories from women who are living well. The first season was released in August 2020, and the second season will be released soon in 2021. Sue loves running and has completed 3 full marathons in her mid-50s, with the third completed in October 2020 at the age of 63. Proving you are never too old.
Her love of travel and her adorable grandsons are her reason for keeping fit and active. Sue's motto, make it happen because life is too short to wait. Welcome to Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, Sue.
Well, thank you, Chris and Jill, and it's lovely to be here. I'm on the other side of the world in Australia, and it's just wonderful to be able to chat to you.
Isn't that just amazing that we're able to do this and talk without... Sometimes I think about the technology, and it's just amazing to me that...
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's really a great way to connect with others. And, of course, if you're using Zoom to see people as well, you just feel like you're having a conversation in the same room.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us. We're delighted to have a fellow podcaster, and especially one who podcasts to women over 50. Tell me, as a young person, were you always fit and active, or did becoming a fitness instructor and all the things that you do, did that just come when you were in midlife?
Well, I was never very good at sports or, physical education at school, but I did do dance. I did ballet and tap and jazz ballet. And in another life, I actually had a ballet studio, and I became a ballet teacher and had a studio for quite a number of years. From when I was about 15, I was still at school. So I used to teach ballet, tap and jazz. In that way, yes, I did. I was quite fit. But then I had a couple of children and we moved to another state. And like many of us, especially if you're working full time, life gets in the way.
Yeah.
And you just sort of become in a bit of a comfort zone. It wasn't until I was about 49 that I was reintroduced to the fitness side of life. And that was because I was working with some young girls who didn't look at me as a woman old enough to be their mother. She just looked at me as one of the girls and booked me into a boot camp.
Oh,
and told me after the event. So that's how I got into it.
you'll love it.
Exactly.
It's true, though. Once you get doing it, it's so fun, right?
Well, that's right. And I did say, look, do you realise I'm old enough to be your mother? And they said, no, you're fine. You'll be able to do it. And I did get into it. It went for about 6 weeks. Yeah, I got into it then. And then we decided to start running. And I'd never run before in my life. And I couldn't really run even between 2 lampposts at that stage. But each week I would add a little bit on and felt more confident. And then I think what helped was that we entered some fun runs, and that gives you something to work towards.
You get to train for something.
That's right.
The stepping stones, exactly.
But you've done 3 marathons?
Yes. Well, that was we started off with a 10K, or we started off with a 5K, and then we went to 10. And then by that time I was 50, and I said, let's try a half marathon. And we did that. So I did that for a couple of years, and I was coming up to 55, and I thought, how am I going to mark this? I really want to try a marathon, but I don't know if I can do it. So with the help and support of my husband, who isn't into exercise at all but is very supportive of me, he and some girls that I started running with, and we've run together now for 10 years or more. We call ourselves the Saturday Sisters, and we run every Saturday together.
Nice.
They trained with me and I trained on my own, and I actually ran a full marathon at 55, which I was over the moon with. And I did it in a time that I wanted to do. I didn't overextend myself, but I did challenge myself. And it was such a euphoric feeling just coming across that finish line.
That's great.
And then when I turned 61, I did my second one. And then last year, even though we had COVID, there was one period where they opened up and they had a restricted event, restricted numbers, and my friends and I had been still trying to train. So we said, let's give it a go. Yeah, I was really happy with the results there. So not sure if there's any more, but never say never.
Wow. So you managed to squeeze in a marathon last year in the middle of all of the pandemic. Well, good for you. That's amazing.
That's great.
Well, I think it gave us something to work towards, because in Australia we were only locked down for a short period of time compared to what other countries have had.
Right.
I think I can't even remember now. It might have been about 3 months. But during that time, I still kept, you could go out for a walk or run or that sort of thing. So I still kept that up, because the trouble is, once you stop, you can lose your fitness quite fast with running. So we wanted to keep that base level there. And then when we could start running together again, we just felt we needed something to give us a bit of a lift, because COVID has been quite devastating to the world, really.
Right.
I don't think I would have, coped quite as well without continuing with our running and having something to work towards.
Oh, I'd agree with that. I noticed on your website, you wrote, we need to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone to achieve our dreams and create harmony in our lives. Can you talk a little bit about this? And, how do you see us doing that?
Well, I think that I'm only speaking generally here, because there's always exceptions to the rule. But I think that as we turn 50, we can become a little bit confused about our life. We're empty nesters for some of us, or we're changing careers, or we're looking towards retirement, and we start to question who we are as a person. And we've probably been giving so much of ourselves to everyone else throughout our life that we've lost our identity and who we are. And I think what comes with that is we also lose our confidence in ourselves and our ability to think that we can do things. So like I said, I used to be active when I was younger, but then life got in the way. I got complacent. I got comfortable. I didn't really try anything. And so when the girl said to me, you can do a boot camp, my immediate response was, oh, no, I can't.
Right.
I'm 50. I can't do that. And I was nervous going. I was the oldest one in the group. Everyone was in their 20s or 30s, and here I was in, 50. They were very welcoming, which was good. But I just thought to myself, well, you can do this. Give it a go. And I think that's the importance. You've got to have an open mind. I just think sometimes we doubt our own ability. We take the safe option, and then we miss out on opportunities that life has to offer. So I think the way to do that is, I'm not saying, like, for example, I'll never go bungee jumping or jumping out of an aeroplane. I am very afraid of heights, but where I get myself out of the comfort zone there, we recently visited Seattle a couple of years ago, and so I went to the top of the Needle. Now, I was absolutely petrified, but my husband was with me, and
right.
I just, you just sometimes have to do things that scare you, but, don't take unnecessary risks, of course. Just do something. It might be something simple as going and having a cup of coffee on your own, which a lot of people don't like to do.
Right.
I can't go out on my own. Everyone will look at me, or I can't go out for a meal on my own. And that's something that's so simple, but for some people it's difficult to do. So start with something that is achievable, but you do need to push yourself a little bit to just get out of that comfort zone and you feel a bit of adrenaline there, and with fear and then elation when you've achieved it. I just think it's something that as we get older we need to be aware of, because it's so easy to say, I'm too old to do that.
Yeah, get into a rut about things. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And again, with COVID, it's been so difficult for those of you that are still in lockdown.
Right.
That's so easy to give up on everything, but people are resilient, and I've been inspired by people that have just tried to be really creative in ways to keep connection and keep their life going while they're in lockdown.
Right.
Well, that does present an extra challenge, that's for sure. So you work as a health coach and as a fitness instructor?
Yes, that's another thing where I jumped out of my comfort zone, because for years I wanted to be a personal trainer, and I applied to do the course when I was 57. And they suggested to me, oh, you're probably a little bit too old. So I really did the wrong thing. And instead of saying, well, no, I'm not, my confidence took a dive. And I thought, oh, well, perhaps I am too old to do that. But in 2019, I thought, no, I'm 62 by then. I'm going to give it a go. So I got my certificate as a Group Fitness Instructor.
Okay.
And, of course, then COVID came. But that's where I had to step out of my comfort zone, because I was having people say, you're too old, you can't do this. And I wanted to prove them wrong. I was fortunate enough then to get a position with Strong Healthy Women, which is a virtual studio working with women over 50. So I take some of the group classes there. And I also do my own health and life coaching. I'm qualified in that area for women who are just struggling with either where they want to go in life or what they want to do.
That's great.
What advice do you give your clients about exercise?
Firstly, I try not to use the word exercise, because I find that as soon as you say that, people tune out, or they think, oh, no, sorry, too hard.
I don't want to do that.
No, don't want to do that. And definitely if I say I'm a runner, they go, oh, I can't do that, or this or that. So I have to be very mindful of the language that I use. But for me, it's the most important thing, and we've heard it all before, and this is the thing, we all really know what we need to do. It's just a matter of getting the right mindset to do it. But I think the most important thing is, first of all, if you haven't done anything for a while, you need to get a checkup from your GP to make sure you know, especially if you're older, our bodies are getting more aches and pains, and we're more prone to injury and things like that. So you get your checkup. But the other thing is to find something that you enjoy doing. I think everybody likes different things, and it's no good saying, oh, I'm going to the gym and I hate every minute of it.
Right.
Because you're not going to stick at it. Whereas if you say, oh, I'm going to Zumba, or I'm going to aqua aerobics, or I don't know, I'm doing a hula hoop or something like that, if it's something that you like doing and you have fun, you're going to stick to it more. And I think that's really when you're starting out where you should be. Then you can get into more traditional forms of exercise. But as long as you do that daily intentional movement, I think that's really the key to staying fit and healthy.
That's great. When you were talking just a bit earlier about them telling you that you're too old, what popped in my head is those are fighting words. But to react, it's also normal, I think, to react like thinking, well, maybe I am. So what would you tell someone if they were saying back to you, oh, I'm just too old? What would you say to them?
Well, I think I would say, firstly, we're never too old, but we have to have the right attitude. If you think you're old, you're going to be old. I don't look at myself as an age. I know I've mentioned my age a couple of times today, but, my mind is ageless, really. I just don't put myself in that box. I like to encourage women to do the same, because unless we've got a serious illness or an injury, we really can do anything that we put our mind to. And I'm not necessarily talking about exercise here either. I think that it's having that attitude that, don't look at yourself as being a certain age. You are an individual and you just start from there. That's the advice I give, because once we start labelling ourselves with an age, we're going to probably start getting old, aren't we?
Right.
My mother-in-law was 93 when she passed away in October. It was unexpected. But her life didn't start again till she was 90, and she moved to aged care. And she moved into an aged care home, and she did things that she'd never done before. She even started going to the gym.
Wow.
She started doing artwork. She was doing things. She was a little old Italian lady. She very much still living back in the old ways of the way she'd been brought up, and living in Australia. But that world, when she moved, she got a new lease of life. So she was proving to me all the time that it was never too late to try anything new.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's great to have someone be a role model for taking a whole different mindset, that mindset of thinking of yourself as an individual instead of an age. I appreciate you saying that so much. And I think that's one thing that I'm really getting out of tonight's talk. Thank you.
So I have a question that's related to that. This is something that I've been struggling with because I just went to the doctor, and, I work pretty hard to try to be healthy. And you're right. It's more than just being fit or doing exercise. It's, there's the whole sort of way of living. But sometimes I hear things from the doctor like, well, as you age, our bodies don't do something, or we find it harder to. The last thing I heard was, well, women of a certain age, it's hard for their bodies to process vitamin B. Do you have any advice on or suggestions for coping with the difficulties of dealing with an aging body?
Well, I think we have to be realistic. And, even I get days where I'm thinking, oh, I'm a little bit achy or whatever. But I think you've just, again, it comes back to your attitude to life and your mindset. Now, the doctor's saying to you, oh, a woman of a certain age, so that automatically puts it in that category.
Right.
Oh, we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing that. The thing is, you need to listen to your body. I always have a checkup. Each year I have an annual checkup with the doctor. I get my bloods done and that sort of thing to see how I'm going, because I've got a history of cancer in the family, various forms, and heart disease and that sort of thing. So you do have to get yourself checked out.
Right.
But I think what you need to do is find that balance between, as we said, just saying you're old and not trying anything.
Right.
And then going to the other extreme where you go all gung-ho into it and then you pull a muscle or you do some damage to yourself. You've got to find that balance between making an excuse and trying things. You know, again, it comes back to just listening to your body. And I'm very much into a holistic approach to life. I think our health is all about our mind, body, and our soul, our spirit as well. So I think that, yeah, sure, you know, you may not be able to run as fast as what you did 5 or 10 years ago or do something, but you can still do it. Right. It's just a matter of adjusting your lifestyle, listening to your body, but more importantly, having that positive mindset and not letting someone drag you down, and surrounding yourself with people who are going to build you up with their positivity and their inspiration, and not keep knocking you down for trying all the time.
That's the challenge sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Surrounding yourself with those kind of people.
Well, the thing is, you know, like I started the podcast and a few people said to me, well, why do you want to bother doing that? You know, who's going to listen to you, or why are you doing it? And again, that could have stopped me. And it probably did for a little while. I had a few interviews already done, but I just couldn't press that button to...
That's a hard button to push.
That publish button.
The first time.
Right.
Well, it is, you know.
It is. You put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I thought, well, I've got this Aussie accent, you know, I've got that. I don't like hearing my voice. But
oh, you don't?
No, not particularly. People will always try to bring you down. But if you can, and so they're the sort of people you don't need in your life.
Right.
You know, it is hard to find people who are like-minded, but here we are today, 3 women who are of a similar age, and we're all having a supportive conversation.
Right.
Exactly.
You can find them. And I think it's important to think about, a friend of mine and I were chatting, and I wrote a blog post about where we're putting our energy. Because if you're putting your energy into friendships or relationships or areas in your life that's depleting you of your energy, and people are pulling you down, they're just taking all the time, you need to make some changes, because you are important. I think that you need to just realise your own self-worth and to work towards that. I don't know whether you join a club of, you know, sometimes, like for me, running with the ladies I do on a Saturday, right, we have that like-minded goal. And I think that's important to do that, because otherwise people sometimes get a bit, they're intimidated because you're trying something new, or they feel that you might change and they can't change, they don't want to change, so they feel a bit intimidated by you, and they try to then pull you down and question why you're doing things rather than supporting you.
I know you belong to the Becoming Ellie Facebook group, and those kinds of things, those Facebook groups, and right, those are good ways to find some common people with common interests.
Yeah, and the same mindset.
Yeah, and I think you find that, you know, women are very supportive of each other, especially in those groups. And I've got one, Women Living Well After 50, and I, you know, cover all topics there. And I do enjoy reading your blog, you know, and being part of the Facebook group for Becoming Ellie. And I just think that, you know, you get so inspired by other women. Well, I'm just talking about women. You right, can with men as well, but I think that helps you too, because you see other women doing things that you might want to do and you go, okay, well, they can do it, I'm going to give it a try.
Right. And we are sort of used to seeing men do things. So I think it is motivating to see other women doing things.
Right. It gives you ideas and you think, well, you know what? I just might try it.
Yeah.
Just to try it.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that I've struggled with over the last few years is sleep and recovery, you know, just trying to get enough hours of sleep, you know, because I wake up a lot during the night, and I'm always looking for more hints and tips. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on sleep and recovery, or, you know, something that you could recommend.
I think many women, especially once you're going through menopause or after menopause, sleep is just one of those huge issues that you have, and I still do. I'm not a good sleeper, and it's surprising because of all the exercise I do. Perhaps that's just my makeup. You know, there's lots of things that people suggest we do, like perhaps having some quiet time before we go to bed, or you know, sometimes you might go to bed and you're thinking ahead and you're going, oh, I've got to remember to do that tomorrow. For me, sometimes I have to get up early and I'm thinking, oh, I've got to remember to get up, or I hope that alarm goes off. But if you've got thoughts like, you know, I've got to do this tomorrow, write it down, and at least then you know you've remembered it. Perhaps having a little notebook by your bed helps. You can put those thoughts down. Other people like to recap on their day and reflect on their day. It's a good time to think about the good things that happened to you and to just ease into it. I think that sleep is really a difficult issue to overcome. And I'm still trying to find the answer to that.
I get the sleep info now from Fitbit.
Oh, yeah?
I hear people saying, my sleep was an 86. And someone else was like, I never get over 75. I thought, how does sleep, we've now have sleep as a competition.
Oh, that's right. Everything's a competition, isn't it? But But I think what happens with recovery, it doesn't matter how old you are. Recovery becomes so much more important as you get older. And I think this thing of, you know, we're told that we have to exercise 150 minutes a week for, you know, optimal baseline health, that sort of thing. But for me, you do need at least one day a week where you just relax, you don't do anything. And I like to some people call it a doona day, but I like to have it as a day where I make no plans and I just let the day unfold. And I will do some stretching usually. I think you've got to be sensible. Like if I go for a long run, Saturdays are usually my long runs. So that could be on the off season, we might get up to 20 kilometres, and then, of course, it gets closer to that 40 kilometres as we're getting closer to a marathon. So, of course, Sunday, I don't want to be, I'll do some stretching, which is very important, and we need that to be flexible, but I make sure I have a rest day. And also you think about your diet, what you're having. You need your carbs for energy before, but afterwards you need the protein to help that muscle recovery. I think as far as sleep goes, you've got to try and keep it into a pattern. Like I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock in the evening because I'm awake at 4. But then I wake up on and off during the night, but by 4 a.m. I'm awake. So by 9 o'clock I'm sort of starting to nod off. But my husband doesn't come to bed till after midnight. But then he won't get up till later than me. So you've got to find your own body rhythm. I think there's a lot of advice out there about sleeping, but I just think it's a very difficult area to overcome.
Right.
You mentioned food. Do you eat in a particular way? Are you vegan, paleo, keto, any of those things?
No, I love my food, and I'm married to an Italian, so that didn't help having an Italian mother-in-law who would be feeding you up all the time. But no, I
don't go low carb.
I like to. I don't follow a particular diet, and I don't actually like using the word diet. I just think a sensible approach to eating, and that is making sure you have your macros, which is your carbs, your protein, and your healthy fats. I mean, we all know how to eat healthy. Like you've got a challenge going at the moment, which actually coincidentally I do too, and that's about eating more vegetables.
Yes.
Now, we all know we need to incorporate those in our diet, but you sometimes need a little challenge to get you on track. So for me, I actually, unless I'm really in training where I probably try to be a bit more scientific about what I do, although I'm not that scientific, I like to have an 80-20. So 80% of the time I like to eat healthy, and because it makes you feel better.
Right.
The 20% of the time, if I feel like having something that is probably not quite as healthy, I'll have it. My son got married last week. Well, I didn't worry about what I ate that night because it was also delicious.
And you're celebrating it.
That's right.
Food is a celebration.
Yeah. But I do think with food, we say let's have a treat, but perhaps we shouldn't think that way. Like are you watching your weight or you want to lose weight, instead of having a treat meal, why not go and get your nails done or have a treat, make treat something else rather than saying I'm going to have non-food treat. But that's a good idea. Yeah. But I'm pretty basic in how I live in terms of I don't take anything too seriously, but I do try to be healthy in all areas as best I can without being fanatical.
Do you do nutrition advice with your coaching as well? Or, what kind of advice do you give your followers about food? Or is your podcast more like ours where we talk to other people about things? I'm just curious.
Right. The qualifications that I have, only a dietitian can give a diet plan or that sort of thing. So you can give general food nutrition advice to people, but only a dietitian, especially in Australia, are qualified to really dive deeply into an individual's diet requirements, and they can come up with a plan and that sort of thing. But we do talk about nutrition in general, but I also talk about a whole approach to life in general. So I think the most important thing for doing anything is you need to know your reason why. Why am I doing this?
Yep.
Why do I want to lose weight, or why do I want to be healthy and active? For me, I want to be active to keep up with my grandsons. And also I want to live as long as I can because I've got a family history of different medical conditions, so I'm mindful of that. And, my parents died when they were in their early 60s, so which is quite young. In fact, my mum died at the age I am now. So, I think that it's all about just living a healthy life the best you can. Now, the podcast is about women living well. And whilst that will be, and it's like you, I have guests that I interview, and some of them, it might be more inspirational about how we live our life. They might have written a book, or it might be, I had a lady on as a guest who'd actually lost her son. I think he was about 26 or something, and he died suddenly, and how she coped with that grieving, and now she's moved on to changing her life and helping others. So it's all about women who have a story to tell, and not necessarily just about keeping fit and healthy.
Yeah.
Living well encompasses so many things, doesn't it?
Right. Yes, it does.
Yes. You have an introductory video on your website, and you say that there's so much more for having a happy life after 50 than just food and exercise. So what are those things, and what do you suggest if someone comes to you and they're trying to really enjoy this time of life?
Firstly, food and exercise or food and movement is important. I mean, we need our health. Our health is the most important thing, but you don't stop there. And for me, your mental health is extremely important. And of course, when you're exercising and moving, that helps your mental health. You always feel great afterwards, even if you haven't felt like working out. Once you do it, you feel great. But for me, it's things like social connection. There's a lot of women that, as I said, they're empty nesters, or they're coming up to retirement, or they're changing career, and they're starting to doubt who they are as a person. They've lost all the interests that they might have had when they were younger because they've been either looking after children or working in a career. Now, when you get to this time of life and you've got the time, you tend to say, what am I going to do now? There's lots of things. Now, let's not bring COVID into it because that unfortunately has sort of put the kibosh on a few things. But there's lots of things you can do, travel, there's connecting with other people, and connection with people is very important, joining groups and exploring new things to do. I've got a friend who has taken up watercolour painting. Now, I don't know if she'd ever done that before, but she has discovered this hidden talent, and she's so good at it, and she's found something new that she loves. For me, I like to do courses, so I like learning. I like extending my knowledge because about lots of things. I think that it's important just to have an open mind and to try new experiences, because whether it's even just taking some time to read a book or just making each day count and thinking of ways that you can make it special for yourself. And look, life will get in the way, but you've got to have that attitude to life where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So if you want to try something, go and do it.
Right.
People find joy with their families. And, with their grandchildren. I know I do. Every week I see my grandsons, and, you know, I've taken the little one to swimming lessons now every week, and we have so much fun together, and that brings out your child, the inner child that you used to have that you've pushed down because we're not meant to have fun when we get older. So it's sort of discovering the fun side of life as well.
Right. How old are your grandsons?
Almost 7 and almost 3. So,
okay.
Yeah, and they keep me on my toes, I can tell you. So,
oh, I bet.
But it's lovely because you have conversations with them, and I think it's too surrounding yourself with people of all ages. That keeps you involved. It keeps you up to date on everything that's happening in life. It just gives you a new perspective on things.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And so many women's lives are devoted to helping other people, you know, whether they're taking care of their children or their parents or grandsons, spouse, and there's work to think of, career. But when women get in their 50s, that generally has some sort of change happen. How do you help your clients balance those relationships or deal with the empty nest syndrome or adjust to this new phase of living?
Well, it can be a shock to the system. For some women who perhaps have been traditional, their career has been in the home, that really comes as a bit of a shock to them because their children have gone and they think, what am I going to do now? Because they've provided this loving environment for them and that's been their world. It's the same, though, as someone, you know, who's been in a career for quite some time and then they retire. They might have given everything to that job and let all their extracurricular activities fall by the wayside because, as you said, Chris, you know, there's a lot of
caretaking.
Time. Yeah, and there's a lot of demands on our time and we just can't fit it all in. So I think what you have to do is, first of all, not panic and not go, oh, my goodness, what am I going to do? I feel lost. I don't know who I am anymore. And I think that, you know, don't panic because we've all been there and you know, it's just part of life. But I do think that you need to, I think, connect with other people, see what they do, talk with other people and just take some time to reflect on perhaps what you enjoyed doing when you were younger and that you stopped doing. And would you like to take that up again? Or I think it's important to have a bit of a plan in place, hopefully before you retire or before the event happens, whichever it is, so that you can sort of have a bit of a transition period into it. But the most important thing is not to panic or to beat yourself up and feel that, you know, you're not worthy or you don't have any value anymore because you're just beginning. This is your time now.
Right. A new chapter.
Yeah, very much so.
Do you still dance?
Oh, no, I don't, unfortunately. But I used to love that. Yeah, I have to admit I used to love that. And I did actually in one of my group fitness class for the assignments we had to do, I did give like an aerobics type class because back to the old, what was it, the 70s or the 80s when that was in with the leg warmers and everything. And that was a bit, that was a bit of fun. You know, but yes, I often think, I'd love to go back to tap dancing or to something like that, or even ballet. And ballet, you know, bar workouts have become popular now, haven't they?
Sure.
So
yes, they have.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wondered since you were talking about going back to things that you used to enjoy.
Well, that's brought it up now. Maybe I'll have to investigate that.
Yes.
There you go.
So in 2020, you set a Make It Happen challenge, and then everything seemed to happen in 2020. You ran it, but you did run that marathon at age 63, your third marathon. And obviously it takes a lot of exercise, training, good nutrition, but also a special mindset. Can you sort of help us or give us a look into your mindset during 2020, especially after dealing with the fires in Australia and the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, well, there were a couple of things that I made happen because, you know, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but every year I either think about a word of the year that I want to focus on, perhaps to guide my life, because, New Year's resolutions, you make them and then probably by mid-January you've gone off the rails anyway. For me, if you want to make changes, it's got to be long-term and lifestyle changes. So I just put into the group and my blog, we're doing a Make It Happen challenge. And then, of course, COVID hit, didn't it?
Yes.
That could have derailed what I wanted to do, because I had about 3 modules left of my group fitness course to finish. That would have meant that I didn't get my certification. And, of course, then also I wanted to run a marathon, and they were cancelling them everywhere. We'd had entered some and they had to cancel them. So it would have been quite easy just to give up. But for me, I'm the sort of person that likes to finish what I've started. It made me become quite creative, because I had 3 modules left and I had to be just demonstrating my teaching abilities in different classes. All the classes were going virtually. So I put to the person who was, I was dealing with the course, and I said, well, if all the gyms and PTs are doing it virtually, why can't I do these group sessions in a Zoom virtual environment and send that to you? Because I've only got 3 to go and I want to finish my course. And they said, oh, we hadn't even thought about that. I can't see that there's a problem, but no one had thought outside the box, and I was determined to finish it, you see. So I was thinking, how am I going to do this? I'm so close. So I got a few people together and, some friends and family, and I also, the Strong Healthy Women also helped me out with some group classes, and I actually did them in the virtual studio. I recorded them with everyone's approval, of course, sent them off, and got my certification. So I could have stepped back and said, oh, well, I'm so close, but COVID's happened, I can't do it. But that's just not the personality that I am. I'm thinking, I'm so close, I've got to finish this. What can I do? If I'd explored all options and I couldn't do it, I would have just had to accept that. But the same with the running, like they were, each year at the beginning of the year, we choose what different fun runs we're going to do each year. And so one by one they were being cancelled, but we still kept training, because we said you never know, one might happen, and we want to be ready for it. Because if we'd stopped and then they suddenly said, oh, yes, we've got one in a month, I would have, kicked myself and thought, why didn't you just keep training for that? So it just comes down to the mindset. If you want something badly enough, you're going to make it happen, and you've got to think outside the box sometimes.
Right.
Excellent.
Well, I did see something on your website about that one word 365 project where, you select a word of the year. And some of the words that I saw that you had: balance, simplify, thrive, commit, and evolve. Those are great words. And I don't know if you know, but Jill and I do 3 words. And we've been doing this for a while. Although last year with COVID, I just threw out my 3 words and just used resilience as my word. But you talked about New Year's evolution, not resolutions, and making a life plan. Would you be willing to share with us what your goals and intentions are for your New Year's evolution in 2021?
Yeah, sure. I actually selected a word this year, self. Yeah. And that's because, and of course people might go, oh, that sounds a bit selfish. That's a bit driven. But what I mean by self is that we do need to look after ourselves. And if you do, then you're going to be able to look after other people as well, because you're not draining your energy. You're looking after yourself. And what do they say when you're on an aeroplane? And, of course, unfortunately, none of us have been on one for a while with COVID. But, you reach for your oxygen mask first before you give it to someone else. And it's so easy for us to give or feel guilty that we should be doing things and we should be doing that for some person, or we mustn't do this or mustn't do that. And I just wanted to bring this year back to self. Last year, for all of us, was not a good year generally. And for many of us, we've lost people that were close to us. And so it's been a difficult time. So for me, this year, it's all about me. It's all about self. And as I said before, looking at where I'm placing my energy so that I don't deplete my own energy in the wrong and give it into the wrong places. And I think it's more than just self-care. It's about self-respect. It's about self-love. And I think that if you look inward to what your needs and desires are and to try to fulfill those and find some balance in your life for time for yourself, you're going to be a much better person for everybody else in your life, aren't you?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, self, not selfish, but self.
I like that. I think that's a great word. Something we like to ask our guests is, how do you define the word fit? Or what does fit mean to you?
Well, fit to me means feeling alive. It means looking after your, as I said before, your body, your mind, and your spirit. And when you've got that complete well-being, then life can just be so much better for you. And I don't mean that you have to run marathons all the time. I think, for me, being fit is being able to just do our daily tasks that we need to do with ease. So because as we get older, we've still got to carry the groceries. We've still got to bend up to put things in the cupboard or bend down and things like that. So keeping that functional movement and fitness going, because from just a healthy life and being able to cope on your own rather than having to go and being looked after. I mean, at times we may have to in the future, but for as long as you can, to be independent. And for me, fitness is mind, body, spirit, putting that time for mental health, physical health, and spiritual health.
That's great. How can our listeners keep in touch if they want to follow you?
Yeah, sure. They can visit me at the website womenlivingwellafter50.com.au. You might want to listen to the podcast. I've got the first season up there, and as I said, I'll be starting some more soon. So that's Women Living Well After 50, and I think you can get that on all the general mediums for that. Or you could come and visit me in the Facebook group, Women Living Well After 50. So I'd love to hear from you, and I love chatting to you ladies and listening to your podcast because that inspires me. I always come away from your conversations with your guests learning something new, which is what I love.
Well, that's great. I think that's sort of what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
We will be sure to put links to the website, Facebook, all those things in the show notes.
Okay, thank you.
Really appreciate you being a guest on our show today. Thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. We haven't met before today, but we're really chatting away like old friends. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Similar mindsets, right?
Yeah, very much. And I usually listen to the podcast when I'm driving up to Brisbane, which is about an hour away from where I live on the Gold Coast. So I listen to your podcast when I'm on my way for a run. So that gets me in the mood, you
good.
see. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I feel like I've known you for quite some time because I hear your voices all the time.
That's really fun. Well, thank you so much for being our guest. It's been great getting to know you.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. Hopefully you'll join me over on the podcast when I start up again. I'd love to have you both on as guests.
Oh, that would be great. We'd love to do that.
We'd love that. Thank you.
Well, thanks, ladies, for your time, and I'll chat again to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was so good to get to talk to Sue. She gave me lots to think about, and I really love her accent, too. I just find it charming.
I know. So, Sue's in Australia, and that's one of the things I love about virtual communities. We can meet women from all over the world, and we still have so much in common.
Yeah, it's really a fun thing to get to know the folks in our community and build relationships with them, especially right now when we are limited in some of our social interactions. It's been a tremendous help for me during the pandemic and COVID to reach out and meet people from all over the world.
And I find it really helpful to know that other women are interested in the same things, working towards the same goals, and everyone, while we're all working towards the same goals, we all have a bit of a different way of doing it, and I really like hearing those things. So, Chris, I've been meaning to ask you about how you're doing with the 2021 Veggie Challenge. I'm sort of struggling with it because I'm finding this winter to be wearing on my spirits.
Oh, yeah. You and me both. I'll tell you. Well, for me, I would say the veggie challenge is going okay. I've been cheating a little bit because what I've been doing is buying frozen vegetables, pulling them out of the freezer, and I'll probably buy 6 or 7 big packs, family packs of vegetables that, you can add to soups or just pull out of the freezer, chop them up. And, I may defrost them or I may just throw them in a big pot and let them kind of cook down and cook the water down. I like to spray olive oil on it, from a spray, and salt and pepper and a few spices, and call it dinner, maybe with, just a side of protein of something. But it's definitely cheating when you buy all these things already pre-cut up and frozen. I don't know
that that's cheating.
Oh, it feels cheating because, I'm not chopping vegetables, but, it's easy. You just have to make sure they don't add any sauce to it, when you're reading the labels. And you know how it's crazy.
Right.
You really have to read the labels.
I remember the first time I ever bought frozen diced onions. I will confess, it did feel like I was cheating because it is really nice to be able to open the freezer, pull out a bag, and throw a couple of handfuls of onions in your pan.
Right. Like if you're making a chili or you're making, I've really been on a kick lately of making the baked cabbage rolls. It takes a few steps with the baked cabbage rolls, but if you kind of cheat and buy all this stuff that's already chopped up in your freezer, I can add a lot more vegetables so easily. It makes it easy for me. And, I'm wondering what our listeners are doing because I know everybody's working on the veggie challenge. I hear people over and over say, I need to eat more vegetables, try a new vegetable recipe or a new vegetable. So I'd love for them to send us a message or what have you and commit, or if they've committed to adding extra servings of vegetables to their day.
And I guess I'm going to say, tell us if you think it's cheating to buy already chopped frozen vegetables, because I do not think that making something easier is the same as cheating. I'm going to stick with that.
Well, maybe I should reframe it, but let's see what our listeners think.
And, so we'll have a little poll.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from our listeners about their fitness journeys or their efforts with vegetables. If you want to share something with us, please do so. You can email us or leave a voicemail message at 330-970-6662.
And if you're looking for an online community, be sure to follow us on our Facebook page and then join our private Facebook group where we encourage and support each other.
We are also on Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest.
So I'm looking forward to talking to you again on the next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
See you next time.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.